Most people see Stallone as indestructible, but at 79, there is a quieter fight that, kind of steals the room. I grew up on Rocky and Rambo, like you probably did, and I thought strength meant never bending. Then I started digging, and the picture got messy in a human way. He was born with a nerve injury from forceps that froze part of his face, and kids mocked the slur that later became iconic. He slept in stations, sold his best friend Buckus for $40 to eat, and wrote his own way out when no one would cast him. He turned down hundreds of thousands for Rocky so he could play the part, and that gamble shaped a generation. But the wins came with a price that applause can't pay back, like surgeries, scars, and the ache of losing his son, which never leaves. I keep asking myself if the legend we cheered for on screen matches the man who wakes up with stiff joints and still chooses to move. If this sounds like the kind of messy but real talk you want more of, that's what we do here at Golden American Legends, so yeah, subscribe if you want in. Do you ever feel weird admiring someone's strength and then realizing their real courage was in the soft, quiet places we never saw? Stay with me, because the road from Hell's Kitchen to the Oscar stage was steeper than the posters ever told us.
He came into the world in 1946 with pain stamped on his face, and it never really let up. Home wasn't safe, school wasn't kind, and he bounced through more schools than anyone should, landing in a reform place where hope felt locked away. Theaters became his oxygen, tiny rooms where the light from a projector felt like a hand on his shoulder saying, "Keep going." I picture him sitting alone, thin and hungry, whispering lines to himself while the world called him unwanted. He chased drama in Miami, then bolted to New York with almost nothing, sleeping in the Port Authority and showering in public sinks, which hurts to even say out loud. Agents laughed at his voice, his face, his everything, so he started to write because the door marked actor kept slamming. He read Poe and bled into pages, and then one night after watching Chuck Wepner stand with Muhammad Ali, he wrote Rocky in 3 sleepless days. Money was waved in his face, big money for a man with $16 and a pregnant wife, and still he said no unless he could play the lead. They cut the budget, his family pitched in, and he earned almost nothing as the movie that changed everything roared to life. Was it stubbornness or survival when he decided to bet his whole name on a character the world did not know yet? Because that bet lit the fuse, and the blast carried him into a storm his body would pay for punch by punch. Rocky and Rambo made him a myth, but the myth was built on a body that kept breaking and getting rebuilt. For Rocky III, he starved down to a number so dangerous doctors warned him. And for Rocky IV, he took a real hit that smashed him into intensive care for days. There were torn shoulders, cracked ribs, a neck that needed metal, and more than 14 major surgeries stitching him together like a patchwork flag still flying in the wind. People whispered about his face, called it vanity, but those early nerve injuries were part of the long fix, which no headline really explained with care. By the 90s, the box office dipped and the jokes got loud, and then he swung back with Copland and later crawled out of the canvas again with Rocky Balboa, Rambo, and The Expendables. Then came Creed with a softer Rocky, a kind of weathered grace that honestly made my throat tight, and the Tulsa King years showed he could still command a frame without pretending time stood still. The man adjusted the weight on the bar, not the will to lift, and that mix of humility and grit feels like a lesson I keep underlining. And, fans keep asking if anyone should ever replace him as Rambo, and the answer sounds simple until you sit with what that role cost him. Do we honor a legacy by passing the torch, or by letting some stories end where they mean the most? Because the next chapter is not louder, it is deeper, and it lives in the people around him. Behind the posters, there was a kitchen table with bills, baby bottles, and broken sleep. Sasha believed in him when there was almost nothing, and together they welcomed Sage and then Seargeoh, whose autism turned their days into care schedules and quiet courage. Fame pulled one way, family pulled the other, and that tug finally tore the seams, leaving a hush where laughter had been. Years later, a headline carried the kind of news that empties a room: Sage gone at 36, and there are no neat words for a parent's grief. There was the quick burn of a second marriage that flashed like lightning and faded, a reminder that passion can't carry a home on its back. Then Jennifer, a long, winding path with mistakes, a letter that hurt, and somehow a return to each other. They married, and their first daughter, Sophia, faced heart surgery as an infant, and he stood there powerless, which might be the truest definition of tough I know. 2 more daughters followed, Sistine and Scarlett, and he softened, not smaller, just different, like steel warmed by sunlight. In recent years, they almost split, then chose to fight for the family instead, and he keeps giving back, from auctions to a $1 million gift for brain health research, which feels like turning memory into medicine. When you strip away the mansions and cars and headlines, what is a win if not a dinner table where the chairs are filled and the stories keep going? Because the last act is not about outrunning age, it is about walking with it and choosing who walks beside you. Now he lives in the sunlight of Palm Beach and in the shadows of every scar. Lighter weights, slower steps, steady breath, still moving. The pain does not vanish, but neither does the will, and that to me is braver than any montage. He turned poverty into poetry and fame into service, and even with fortune stacked high, you can see the missing piece he carries with quiet love. I keep thinking about his line, not how hard you hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And I hear it differently now, softer, wiser, true. If you made it this far, thank you for watching and sharing this space with me. If you want more of these golden American legends reframed with heart and context, subscribe and come back to the table with us. Drop one Stallone scene in the comments that made you breathe deeper, and tell me why it still lives in you, because we read everything. We have more episodes on the way, from underdog origins to late life reinventions, and I think they will surprise you. So what do we owe our heroes as they age in public? Applause for the past or patience for the person still becoming? Keep that question close, rewatch a classic tonight, and meet me in the next story.